Good afternoon. This is Dave Rogie here for the Lake Chelan Sports Blog. I'm with head coach Eric Ramirez, who is head of the track and field team for the Mountain Goats this year. Coach, thanks for taking some time out for us. Last time we talked, Coach, things were kind of getting in line. You had people starting to find their positions, and now I know that you've had a little bit of action under your belt. I think you went to I'm not sure if I remember now for sure.
We went down to Royal.
That's right. And since then, I don't know if you've had another meet, but let's talk a little bit about how things are going.
So, yeah, like you said, Dave, we went down to this past Thursday to a little invitation, or not invitation, like jamboree type, where each kid had the privilege of competing in two different events. It wasn't your traditional one where they had like the 100, 200, anything like that. It was kind of more relay-based and kind of to get people a little under the, kind of get excited and also most importantly just kind of get some events underneath their belt. So we had over 50 kids compete and I think everybody was able to actually get marks, whether it be in the long jump, pole vault, running events, throwing events. So we covered a lot of events.
Wonderful. Great. Well, I know that the last time we spoke briefly, you were talking about kind of now starting to get some of your folks starting to focus in some areas. We talked a little bit about your sprinters and the work that you were looking forward to with them. And so let's talk a little bit about maybe how that's beginning to settle out. Have you begun to find some of those people that you think you'll be looking to run when your first competition comes up here pretty quick?
Yeah, so our first actual meet where we have four events would be this coming Saturday down in Ephrata for the Raycross Invitational. We've had a lot of kids that were young last year and now have some experience, so not necessarily, like I said, because on Thursday there was no traditional running events.
Right.
So we'll actually find that out on Saturday, and looking forward to that. We'll have a lot of girls and a lot of different events, and our guys, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take all the guys because we do have a large influx of boys competing this year, which is both good and bad, but we'll have some of the better guys compete this coming Saturday.
When you have a situation like that, do they try to set up like a junior varsity event, or is that more just kind of and whoever's got the best numbers that week is the guy that goes to the meet? Yeah,
so like I said, I've never, cause being myself competing a long time ago here at the high school, we never really had that situation. We didn't have that many kids. This is a good problem to have. I actually met with our athletic director, Rob Rainville, this morning trying to get some extra track meets. And we do have some JV-type meets where some of our better guys will not go to those meets and give opportunities to some of those younger guys so that way they can still get anywhere between 8 to 10 track meets, whether it be at an invitational or whether it be at a JV-type meet. And just because it's a JV meet doesn't mean it's a bad meet. Like, we're going to go compete against Eastmont. They'll have their JV team is just as good as a 1A or 2A varsity-type team.
Sure.
So we're set up for that and been able to make some calls and make some moves and lots of emailing this morning, but we got it all covered.
That's important to keep the kids interested and keep them actively going, isn't
Correct.
it? You mentioned that it's a nice problem to have. And I hear the same thing. Basketball, they had 3 or 4 different units going, and volleyball, they had several. What do you attribute some of this to?
I just know that this freshman class in general, as we talked last time with Dave, is there's a lot of kids there. But I think the biggest thing is, like, kids just want to be involved. Kids want to be part of the school. Kids want to be part of something greater than themselves. And, there's statistics that say all the time, like, the more involved the kid is, the greater success they have to succeed and also graduate too. So for us, there's this big push in the community, big push within athletics and everything to keep kids involved. So why not go the extra mile for those kids that want to be involved and that may not compete at the state or district level, but they still can have fun, and maybe when they become juniors and seniors, they have that opportunity to compete for that state title.
It's interesting that I met with a student this morning in one of the classes that I was teaching that in the past has been a bit of a handful. I was surprised at his maturity, and I know that he is right now, even though he's in the 8th grade, he's been very active with the soccer team. I think he's a manager, he mentioned, and I know he's getting to kind of hang out, and it's clearly had an impression on him to participate in the sports at this level where you begin to realize that if you're not working with your grades and you're not taking care of the academics, the rest of it doesn't come to you. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Yeah, and like you were saying, I think the biggest thing is, like, we always try to get, like, one or two, or, like, I know Steve Nagreen at the girls' basketball had 4 different managers that they kind of rotated, and for them to kind of get the taste, kind of get an idea of what it takes to be a high school athlete, you know, and be a potentially 2 or 3 sport athlete. Like, obviously, grades are super important. You got to have good attendance, and anyone and everyone could be a manager, but in order to be a successful one, that's one thing that, you know, a lot of kids and a lot of coaches really want to go for and strive for, is someone who's willing to work that much harder, because then when they do become a high school athlete, then they'll already have those skill set ready to go, where they don't have to teach it as a freshman or sophomore.
When you look beyond this freshman class, is this something you think that's going to be kind of a thing of the future? Are we seeing more and more kids, or are we at a point where we're maybe going to see a drop off? I know, you know, I'm not as actively involved, of course, as the day-to-day stuff as you are, but are you seeing that each and every class to follow now is becoming larger, or is this just kind of a particular year or two that's happening?
You know, I don't know about that. I just know that Chelan in itself is a desirable place to come, so more people come and more people transfer to Chelan for whatever reason. As for, I know this current 8th grade class, current freshman class, and current 7th grade class, they have well over 115 kids. So
Goodness.
It's a good issue to have. Like I said, you know, that's why I truly believe that any and all kids should be involved, and whether it be 50 kids go to track or however many. I know that soccer has a huge influx of kids every single year, and my dad and I are kind of competing for athletes and everything, so we do our different recruiting tactics. But it's great. You know, I believe it's an honor and a privilege to represent Chelan, and I think that's one thing we try to set at the middle school level. Like, hey, if you really want to be an athlete, you got to set yourself up for success from the beginning.
Who are some of the young people maybe that have been a bit of a surprise for you, that maybe going in you thought, well, this kid's got some talent, and now that they've had a chance to work out a little bit and kind of find themselves competing, maybe are starting to rise to the top a little bit? Are there any particular students that you see maybe providing a little bit more than what you might have anticipated to begin with?
You know, it's hard to say, because we've only had one little mini jamboree. We'll know for sure more this coming Saturday when we go to, like, I think we compete against 16 other schools, and that's why it's a limited invitational. But nothing more than just that. Obviously, our seniors and our juniors are going to be, because we're kind of set a little bit with the upperclassmen, and they're really trying to train those younger kids. So for sure, next interview, whenever that may be, we'll have some more information regarding that.
Are you finding your upper classes are being good leaders towards and good teachers for these younger students?
Yeah, you know, I think that's one of the greatest things that we have, is having those older kids that have been around for 3-4 years. It's kind of interesting to tell them, like, hey, like, you guys were freshmen and sophomores at one point too. Like, don't just be that kid that just does your time and then just walks out. One thing I challenged him, and I said this to you last time, Dave, was like, what is your legacy? What do you want when you walk out of Chelan? What do you want it to be? And part of that, I know a lot of these kids want to be remembered for being great leaders, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you win or compete for state titles, but it could also mean that you lead kids to be better leaders themselves and want to do more for the school and be more involved.
Well, Eric, I know that you've got other things to do today, so I won't tie up any more of your time, but I certainly look forward to talking with you after this upcoming invitational, and hopefully getting a chance to meet with some of the students and get a chance to talk with them about their experiences and how well things are going for them. I know you've got, you know, some pretty special people up there in those old upper grades, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, how much more they can do than what they've done up to this point.
That's correct.
And really made some, as you said, kind of set a little legacy for themselves. And I had a young man say to me here recently that my son's name is on the board up there many times during his track days, and has said, you know, I'm going to put my name up there more times than his is. That's how good they want to be. And that's really great that these kids can take and aim for those kinds of things, because that's what it's all about. You know, if you can involve yourself, and if the coaches and the people, that's part of the bigger part of their job, is looking at how can they develop character and how can they turn these people into young adults and not just athletes, which is very important. And in a school this size, you get to do even more of that, because you really get to know them personally.
Correct.
So, all right, well, Coach, thanks again, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. And it sounds like lots of good things are happening.
Thank you for your time.
All right, you bet. Bye-bye. This is Dave Rogie for the Lake Chelan Sports Blog this afternoon, here with Eric Romero, head track coach. Thanks, Coach.